Hey, there it is.
All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. The time is now 5:09. We want to call this meeting to order. We're going to start with our opening prayer, in which Mr. Alexander will complete it.
We're not standing by here. Gracious Father, we come before you, asking for your guidance. We ask you, Heavenly Father, to touch our hearts, to search our souls, and make us presentable in your sight. And Father, as we try to proceed with this meeting, help it to be for the students of this district, and help us to help them reach their full potential. Heavenly Father, we ask you to continue to bless us, keep us in your sight. In these things we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Now we'll turn over for
Hey.
If everyone will please stand for the litany. We dedicate this meeting to the qualitative improvement of education for African American students and the collaborative support of African American educators. We rejoice that African American educators and supporters are assembled under the banner of the Texas Alliance of Black School Educators. We ask God's guidance as we deliberate concerning the issues affecting the education of African American students and the role and importance of African American educators. To the honor of the Black community and to all of those who share a responsibility in the education of African American children. To the administrators, teachers, parents, and community leaders who are responsible for the quality of education of African American children.
We dedicate this meeting
to overcome the low levels of performance for the masses of our children, the loss of African American educators, and the serious question about the content of education, traditional, academic, and cultural.
We raise our collective voices in urgent demand for equality and excellence in education.
To the call for new and extended independent African American initiatives in education. To the need to redress prior deprivations caused by slavery, segregation, racism, and poverty.
We pledge our commitment to do what is necessary for ourselves, as we understand that some things we must do for ourselves.
We, the benefactors of many who shed blood and life years to bring us to this point, are grateful for our heritage and this opportunity to go forward with the unfinished legacy. We dedicate ourselves to the education and service of African American children and educators throughout the nation. Thank you. I am so excited to have you guys here. If you have not had a chance to sign in, please sign in. If you've not had a chance to get something to eat, get something to eat. And if you have not had a chance to quench your thirst living La Vida Lopez, then you're going to need to do that. They're right there at the front. This is a very special meeting because of your presence and because of our honored and esteemed guests. And I want to make sure that proper protocol takes place. And I want to give the floor to our board member and our GAABSE member, one of our GAABSE founders, Ms. Linda Griffin, and she's going to bring greetings and welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. Education continues to be the only true equalizer. And for that to happen, there has to be people, that are willing to advocate and to not rest until every child in every school district, in every city, in every state, across the country is receiving equitable, quality education. I greet you as a proud board member of the best school district in the state of Texas, Garland Independent School District. Before I do other greetings, I want to first ask you to give yourselves a round of applause for the work that you're doing in this school district and across the state. So give yourselves a round of applause. I don't say it enough, so you know you need to give praise when you can give it. I am always impressed with your
$2014.
14. And you all registration of the GAABSE conference. And they won't let you all go. And why? Because we did such that is the quality and capability of the people that we have in the Garland Independent School District. And every year that process is smoother. So thank you for that. I recognize things. I don't always say things, but I do recognize things. And I'm a proud board member and GAABSE member when I show up and see you all taking over and being in charge. Now, welcome to this meeting because there are goals and objectives that this alliance is trying to accomplish. Together we can do more. So my greetings today is unity is the only way to go. And let's come together. Whatever your officers have met to organize. I see the letters about what's the deal, the emails on the things you're doing with the girls.
Diamonds and pearls.
Diamonds and pearls. You know, pearls are dear to my heart. Come on. Maybe some belts in the house. But the pearls are the AKAs 1908. And the one for us, it wouldn't be the rest. Okay. So, come on. We got something. All right. Okay. That's just a side note. Okay. So, I do read the stuff that's going on. So, we're going to have an exciting meeting today, and why I have the floor, I want to talk about our superintendent. I know he's going to bring greetings, but he never knows. He's still learning me. So maybe some of y'all can clue him in, but don't clue him in too quickly. Okay. He is behind you all. He's going to support you, but he's also going to require some accountability of this group. So that lets you know that we've had some conversations. So don't think that you're out here by yourself, because basically, first of all, you are an educator, because if you were not, you wouldn't be a part of this association, the state and the national. So let's be in our place, do what we need to do, and then when we need to ask Dr. Lopez for something, let's make it very difficult for him to say no, because he can sign and approve the bottom line. See, I'm putting him on the spot. So, and you all know I'm good at that. And so basically, Dr. Lopez, I just want you to know in front of this group, thank you for what you have agreed to do. They definitely don't know how much that is yet, but we'll roll it out at some point. And so with him, we're a team and we can't lose. And then children of color are going to benefit, because if we bring them up from the bottom, then everybody on the top is going to rise. Thank you for being here, and let's have a great meeting.
I always made a rule, don't follow Linda Griffin. All right? I've already learned that, and here I am. You know, this team over here has always made me feel. Is this live?
It is live.
Who's out there? Let me say hello.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Right here. Like, you're missing on the water right here. Living La Vida Lopez. You know, I mean, come in and get my own water. How can I say no now? Right? I get it all, but you've all made me always feel very welcome. And they did this hashtag. They came up with it, Living La Vida Lopez, right? And I remember when you guys came up with it, it was at my meet and greet.
That's right.
And we were having so much fun and everything else. And I did some hashtags with this, but you know, that's a standard. Or said, you know, where we want to live the life for all of our kids to rise. I've seen a lot of you here and there. We've got to talk. Some of you come to my Lopez Listens, my meet and greets. Some of you have visited your campuses. Some of you I work with every day here at Central Office. I'm still gonna introduce myself like nobody knows me because not everybody here has got to me. My name is Rick Lopez. Superintendent is what I do, but it's not who I am. Okay, who I am is a father of 4 girls. We're a blended family. My wife didn't get it right the first time, so that's recorded. But you know, she had 2 beautiful girls, and I fell in love with all 3. And so since then, we've had 2 other girls, and the oldest is of course Danielle. She's 25. She is looking to graduate this year. We're proud of her from TSA. Alicia's 23. She already graduated. Stellar athlete, very headstrong. Okay, very headstrong young lady, like her mom, and has a backbone and everything. That's what we want our kids to fly, right? Then I have my 16-year-old. Her name is Lauren. Lauren is a dog. My daughter down syndrome. She's my angel. She has me wrapped around her finger, and I don't mind. And then I have little Alyssa, who's 13, who thinks she's 25, who has all their personalities. You know, like you're like, how did this happen? Well, she's hanging out with the older girls, right? And so my quest in life is to be good at both. Be good as a family man and be really good also as a superintendent. I take both jobs seriously. And the reason why I disclose that is because sometimes I don't make amends. And people will know, well, it's because he's with his family. And so the number one thing we talk about, you know, when I come to these things is the need and presence of family members to be engaged with their kids. Well, I have to lead by example. I cannot lead by saying, hey, we need more families here when I'm there and not at my kids' event and being dad, right? And we know this job can call a lot. So whenever I do miss a function, she doesn't miss me because she knows it doesn't happen all the time. So it's real important that you know that. My dad was in the military, so when we were in the military, we moved around, and things were by rank. You lived in your housing by rank. You didn't live according to your socioeconomic status, although it was like that. You were on base, but you were with the enlisted members, not with the officers. My dad, he joined when he was 17. He hadn't graduated yet, went to the Air Force, did a few tours in Vietnam, and then, you know, he eventually married my mom. My mom's an educator, and she retired as a librarian. She's a literacy leader. She's big on literacy. And my dad was big on just retirement because he retired after 20 years. And my mom said, "You're retired. What do you do now?" Because I'm retired. Because I'm 40 years old. So my dad worked odd jobs such as, you know, custodial work, bus drivers, those type of things. So those are things that he wanted to do. My mom went to school, made him go to school. He said, school's not for me. And one thing my dad always told me is all like, be who you're gonna be good at it, but be happy. You know, you can't be chasing things. You know, and he always told me somebody's always gonna have a nicer car. Somebody's always gonna have a bigger house. You know, he doesn't speak much, but when he did, you're like, okay. And so my mom, on the other hand, was always strive to be your best. Oh, whatever you're at, get your best. So I had these two, I was pulled in 2 different ways, right? And the reason why I had to lay this foundation out is because there were things in life that were tempting me to get more money or do different things, and that my dad would remind me in my ear that, well, that was never my plan. That's not going to make me happy. So when I got into education, I remember I went home one day and I was very frustrated. And my dad, what's going on? I go, Dad, I went on a ride along because I wanted to be this drug enforcement agent. I wanted to be breaking through windows and doing this crazy stuff. And I found out it's a lot of paperwork and desk work, and it's not as, Hollywood as I thought it was going to be. And I told him, he said, why don't you go in education? I didn't like school. I go, remember, Dad? I felt like it was a prison. Because I would go up to my principal and say, just put me in college now. I have all the answers. And he'd say, you're a sophomore. Do your 4 years, be good, and get out. I go, that sounds like a prison sentence, right? My dad says, I'm going to change it. And that's what started making my wheels turn. And that's how I got into this seat right now. And the board, I think, has very high expectations on what we need to do in our district. But the thing is, I need your help, because in my history, when I was in Isleta, I was in a gang-ridden area when I started, and we turned that around. It became a blue ribbon school. I've turned around high schools. I went down to Mission, right on the border. So all those things, some of you even watched, when somebody came up to me, it was kind of funny, right? I watched that real TV with the police officers do Mission. I'm like, well, they're in the bad parts. That's not the whole city, okay? They're on the brush, and don't go in the brush at midnight. You just know that, right? But there's a lot of things that were there, and so when I was in Isleta, we were close to 77% economic advantage. And that's a big district. It's about 44,000 kids. When I was in Mission, it's a smaller district, but we're at 84% economic disadvantage. So when I came to Garland and it's 63, I'm like, man, I felt like the Jeffersons. I'm moving on up. Whoa, this is how the rich live, But all kidding aside, Garland isn't what Garland used to be. And one thing I've learned growing up is we like to romanticize the past, right? And we always talk about the past, the good old days and everything else. We kind of forget, what happens in the past, because we're good people and we like to have good memories. And what has happened in Garland is we still think Garland is back in Garland when Garland was probably just Garland. And we have a lot of, and we're inner city. We're country. You name it, we're everything. And we got to embrace it. There's nothing wrong with saying that we have an inner city presence in our school district. There's nothing wrong with saying that. It is wrong to think that you're going to turn around and it's going to go away. It is wrong to think that, well, those kids aren't really from Garland. No, they live in Garland. They've been here for quite some time. They're our kids. And so what I need your help with is multifaceted. Is culturally, we gotta admit what we are, right? I mean, one day I looked in the mirror and I was losing hair. So I know it's coming back. No pun intended, but the comb over, right? The comb over's coming back. We've seen it with some people on TV, okay? I'm not mentioning names, but we've seen it. I decided not to do that. Right? I said the man makes the head don't make the man, right? Then I looked again. I had to realize I don't look like Brad Pitt. I look like The Rock. I'm so like, I'm just playing. He's like, no. He's like, this is the best you can find. That whole search, this is the best you can find. But do you see, we got to be honest with ourselves. We got to be able to laugh and have a good time and not personalize everything, because when you start getting personal, then you start getting defensive. When you start getting defensive, you stop listening. When you stop listening, what did Miss Griffin say we had to do? Work together. And so when we talk about letting go of the past, that means all of us have to let go of what happened in the past. And we got to reframe and really work together on the mission that I have, and I've had a history of this, is closing achievement gaps for all students. We can do this. There's been, you guys are very spiritual. I walked into a prayer. That's beautiful. So you know there's been bigger miracles than getting kids to learn. You know that. But we make it difficult on ourselves sometimes. And so this is why I say that. I might put out a plan and people might disagree with it. Well, as soon as people disagree with it, now the plan is not getting 100% support. Rather than saying, hey, you know what, we're going to give it a try and we're going to give it our all, and I'm going to make the plan work. All of us do that in life. We get dealt a certain hand, and then it doesn't go as planned, and we find a way to make it work. Okay? It could be a friendship. It could be a marriage. It could be raising children. It's never how it is as planned, but you always have to make it work. The same thing is going to go for our school system. It may not go exactly as planned because it's a very diverse area with 56,000 kids, 72 different schools. We got 7,500 different employees, and everybody has an idea on how things should be. Okay? So it's not going to go as planned, so we got to make it work. And as soon as we get these roadblocks, we got to think to myself, am I a problem solver? I can get over this. It's like that commercial when the escalator stops and the people are like yelling for help.
Yeah.
You know? Hello. You know, and we laugh at that, right? Like, come on now. But we do that sometimes in our jobs. It stops and we're like, well, that was his plan. You know, I told him. Well, we have to make things work. It's a fluid organization. And then you could be the leader in some of these things in closing achievement gaps. I'm facing the brutal fact that my African American males are underperforming. Okay. I'm facing the brutal fact that not only are they underperforming, they're over-disciplined. Okay. That's the truth. I'm facing the fact that if you are from a certain economic level in my district, you have a higher percentage of success to make it than if you're not, regardless of the color of your skin. Some of you have worked in our system and seen it. People will judge you. People will go have different tolerance levels for what you've done. And the short time that I've been here, I've seen it. Okay? I have seen it. And so realize that I'm not going to shy away from those things. But I am just one person. I can't do this by myself. Even if I have my board, all 7 of them behind me, that's only 8 of us. I just told you there's 56,000 kids, 7,500 employees. But if I have 7,500 employees, plus my team of 8, plus half my parents, I can do anything I need to do. And we can do that. But it's not, there's no magic wand. There's no way of doing it without getting dirty, without utilizing your resources, without having the will of a lion. When you guys were reading your commitments, one of the things that really stuck out to me was this unfinished legacy. I think that's a beautiful way of saying we're still painting our own picture. With that, I mean, that really popped out at me. And so my thing is this. Today we had a WE conference. Okay, now most of us don't know what WE Day is. Today's WE Day. And it's getting kids inspired to change the world and getting involved in organizations. They've kind of lost that. You know, my generation in particular is more like, what are you going to do for me? What am I going to do for you? The millennial generation is much different. They're like, well, not what are you going to do for me, but if I'm going to help, I'm just going to give you money. And that's my donation. And they're forgetting that it's the time. Okay? Well, when we start talking about WE Day and that kids can change the world, and we start telling them all that, sometimes as adults, we're kind of cynical. Well, it's good for kids to dream. It's good for kids to go out there and aspire to things. We want them to be goal-getters. But we as adults, we know it's real. That stuff, you know, that's cartoon stuff. Right? Well, guess what I've learned? When you tell yourself no, what is always the answer? Always no. It's always no. If you go into a game with a loser mentality, I guarantee you will lose. So we got to get rid of all that stuff. That's why I say for all of us, we've come through obstacles, but we're still here, but there's still doubts. right now you're having doubts about me, which you should. I've proven nothing to you. It's true. I've just come out of the blue and talked to you, and you're like, where are we going from here? Right? But I need people that are saying, I'm going to erase the slate and I'm going to believe again like I'm a child. And I'm going to go at this full force. Because what I shared today was all my ideas about schooling came when I was a child. Almost all my ideas. Now, I refined them as I became an adult. But that's when I was dreaming the most. That's when I had all the big ideas, and this is what I want to do. And I remember everybody would tell me, no. I remember being a first-year teacher coming up with ideas, everybody looking at me like, you live in La La Land. Right? And I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm living in La La Land by myself, but by the end of the year, I'm going to have 2 people live in La La Land. All right? That was just my mentality. That's just my character, right? And it works for me and against me, right? So there's days that I'm too stubborn because stubbornness has gotten me where I've gotten to be and making change. Some of you are ready for it. Some of you say you are and are not. Because that means when you say you want change, who has to change first? Me? Yourself, right? You're like, you got to change first. No, the person in the mirror has to change first. Because that means you have to let go of the past. You got to come in and take those peripherals and open them up and be exposed. Nobody likes to be exposed. Your skin gets soft again. You get burned again. It's hard. But to me, that's the only way to live. That's what drove me to Garland, was this. And that's why I want, before we start these questions, and I'm going to have a little format, a little different with you all, but if we're going to work together, and we're going to do all the great things we have to do, we got to believe it can happen. Let me say that again. We got to believe it can happen. Because if I look at this, it says we're renewing our legacy. That tells me these problems have been existing since schools opened. We decided to desegregate Garland in 1970. And then 17 years later, we had to revisit the whole thing again because it wasn't working. So in 1987, we came and revisited. And then we're here in 2018, right? 2018 now. And we're still like with the same problem. So it's kind of hard to believe, right? It's kind of hard to say, man, if we're facing all of this and it feels like we have our wheels in the mud. But then, if that's the truth, then why are you here? If that's the truth, then why are you here? Because you know something can be done. And so in order for us to move forward, and in order for us to do these great things, I want you to go back tonight. This is going to be your homework. I want you to go back to all the great people that you admire in your lifetime. It could be your grandma or grandpa. It could be a famous figure. It could be whoever. And then look at their background. And look at what they had to do and the will they had to do it. And then just think to yourself, why not me? Why not us? Because that's how it all starts. There could be a big change here, and it doesn't happen overnight. But why not Garland? Why not? And it means sometimes, I'm going to tell you, this is a lesson I learned. It means sometimes I'm not the leader. It means sometimes my ideas aren't the greatest ideas. Now you tell that to somebody who has been a principal and turned around the school. 2 schools actually, or turned around the school district, or turned around the whole area in South El Paso. You tell, I'm used to being in charge. But I learned I'm not always in charge. That sometimes you got to let go and let somebody else lead. And so that's where we have to get to. Somebody else's ideas might be better than mine. And my goal is to make the goals happen. It's not for me to make the goals happen. Like I said, I'm one man, and I learned that. I should have learned that from my pop. So when we're doing all this, realize a few things. I'm in it for the kids. I'm in it for the employees that are serving my kids. okay? I'm not in it for any recognitions. I'm not in it to win, like, hey, let's close achievement gaps and win this certain prize. If that happens, that's just icing on the cake. We're not chasing those things. We're chasing authentic self-improvement in our district, okay? And it moves slow before it moves fast, because there's a lot of moving parts. And so you may have a different role in our district than you thought you might. Embrace it, you take it, and then you make the best out of it. But when we're all talking to each other and we're getting things done, it's amazing the synergy that can happen. And so I will tell you, I will disclose, I've met some extraordinary people here in Garland. We got some superstars, holy mackerel. And so we got people that could get it done. But we got to have people that each and every day wake up with purpose, right? Got to wake up with purpose, not to do a job. And sometimes your friend doesn't wake up with purpose. And we're the worst at having honest conversations with each other, saying, listen, this is the goal. I need you to be on board. If you're not, then step out and let somebody else come. We're worried about each other's feelings more than we're worried about the kids. You don't have to be mean about it. Oh, dude, you're horrible. Why do you even show up? No, all right. We have good collegial conversations. I've lost a lot of friends in this business, or people who I thought were friends, because of those conversations. But at the same token, I've gained more respect with people, and I've gained tighter friendships with people that responded to those conversations. That's what I'm talking about. We cannot move forward if we're going to be accepting mediocre things. Okay? And that comes from holding each other accountable. And so sometimes people show up to meetings and then they leave and they disappear, and they're great participants that have good ideas, but they're not putting their feet to the fire. So in this quest, realize that this school district is bound for greatness. And the reason why I know that is because you got Linda Griffin and 7 other people that say, you better. Okay? There's no going around it. I'm in it because I have a sense of purpose. I want to come in here and make a big difference. Some of the questions I've had, can you scale up from a small district? I worked at a big district that had 44,000 kids, 7 high schools. I feel very comfortable. Small district is a Tri-City area. So I feel very comfortable. Tri-Cities, 3 different mayors, different towns, different personalities, you know? Because I was in the military, I didn't know I was Hispanic. You're like, what does that mean? Like, how do you not know you're Hispanic? You just hung out with people, and most of the people are minorities at that level. You don't know any different. Do you know when I found out when I was Hispanic? I'm gonna tell you when I found out I was Hispanic. I should share the story. My wife says, don't share the story, but she's not here. She's probably watching. Okay. So we moved to El Paso. El Paso is predominantly Hispanic. Okay. And so at the time, my friends, you know, we were break dancers. We listened to soul music. We listened to Michael Jackson. You know, I hung out with, you know, some African Americans, mostly African Americans. That's who I was hanging out with. So when I went to El Paso, they were looking at me like, what are you? I'm all like, I'm Rick Lopez. Are you ain't Mexican? I'm like, no, I'm American. What are you talking about? You know, my dad's in the military. Mexicans from Mexico. But in the El Paso area, Mexican is Hispanic. And they were just kind of confused, like, wait, the way you walk, the way you talk, wait a minute, you know? And I would have to like, wait a minute, I'm not Mexican. And then they got offended, right? Because they're like, oh, you don't like your heritage. I'm like, no, I'm American. I was born in Kansas City. Kansas City? You know, and so I remember I came home and I go, Mom, you know, they asked me today if I'm Mexican. And she goes, well, you know, you're not from Mexico, but you're Hispanic. And I was all like, but what does that matter? But what does that matter? And they're like, well, they're probably thinking you don't identify with your race at that time, you know? And I was like, okay, but I didn't get it. Because I was never confronted with that in my entire life. It was all about us as kids and everything else. And then so as I grew up, you started seeing adult vision in your personal life coming to fruition. So in that, I feel very, very fortunate to want a diverse community for my daughters. I want them to grow up in a diverse area. I love the Hispanic culture. I'm going to tell you, I love the Hispanic. But I also love the African American culture. We lived in Guam. I learned a lot about the Asian and Oriental cultures. And I want to tell you, I feel at home at all of them. And they all have such value, and I think they make us better people. I know they make us better. And when Ms. Griffin says we all got to work together, that's what we got to understand. And that doesn't exclude how much I love the Anglo culture too. There's a lot of things that are second nature to me because in the school that I eventually went to was predominantly Anglo. And at that time, and then I learned so much, and I feel so rich because I feel like all of it is part of me. And I think whenever we start talking about all the different things that are going on, we got to remember it's all about us, because if we help each other, everybody rises. So I know you guys have questions for me. So we're going to do a little different format. I'm not going to do a Lopez Listens thing. I know a lot of you have done it. So I want you to write down.
Dr. Lopez.
Go, you got a
Before
format.
I do have a little
Oh, go
piece
for it.
prior.
Go ahead.
So, you can go more into the detail. We want you to know who we are.
Okay, so
So,
my
you know,
turn.
when-
Let me listen.
Right, when you go out.
My turn.
Right.
Lopez Listens.
Yes, yes.
All right. I
So-
like that.
So our thought was, for us to kind of be like your introduction to GAABSE. When you hear GAABSE, what does that mean? Who is the Garland Area Alliance of Black School Educators? And so I want to first start off by showing you just a quick little video of our proudest program that we have. So I'm going to hold this one. I'm so sorry. So sorry. But everybody awake now. Oh, okay. You couldn't even watch the video because you're scared.
This temperature is just enough to make me align, but not too thick, too long.
All right. So that is our Diamonds and Pearls program. 3rd through 12th grade girls, we meet with them once a month and we mentor them. And let me turn that off because then you're going to see my video for my mom. Okay. So we mentor them and help them to understand that being a young lady is a holistic journey. And so that's something new that we've started this year. We work under the Texas Alliance of Black School Educators as a local affiliate. And our president has 4 areas that she's charged every affiliate to do. So I just want to highlight some of the things that we do here in Garland, because our goal is to tell you our objective, our purpose. You share your objective, your purpose, and we want to work with you to meet Garland's goals. So we want to let you know our strength and what we can bring to the table. Okay. So we have 4 pillars of implementation for each affiliate. The first one is professional development. Angela, Ms. Hemphill, Ms. Twitty, and myself started the year off by presenting a cultural proficiency professional development for our L3. So our principals during the summer have professional development. And so we were given the opportunity to do a presentation with them. And from that, some other principals invited us to come out to their campus. Because a big push for us is making sure that cultural relevancy is happening throughout the district. And so one of our goals as an organization is we want to be plugged into PD. We want it to be that when GISD is looking to have professional development throughout the district, they see GAABSE as a resource. We have people within our organization that are already avid CRT certified. We have presenters that have presented locally, state, national. So we've got it all right here. So when GISD is shopping for PD, we want them to look at GAABSE. Another pillar is community and youth development. We have partnered with the NAACP, and we've really pushed to have more community partnerships. Part of what you'll see when you come to our gala is our push toward community partnerships. We wanted to find a small Black-owned business to say, we want to work with you and bring into your business all of the people that live within this neighborhood. So we work with the NAACP for an education forum at the beginning of the year. We do a back-to-school drive with them, and we also had people present there for our students here in GISD. Teacher of the Year. Teachers that are doing what they're supposed to be doing and helping our students to grow, we want to recognize them. That's another pillar of implementation. You'll hear later on about our Golden Apple Award, which goes out to any GISD teacher that is nominated. They go through an interview process. There are questions that are answered, and we recognize those teachers. We also have a good time as well at the gala. We enjoy that, and we highlight student talent here in GISD. And lastly, networking. We know that it's very important for us to know who we can reach out to be a resource to us. It was through networking that I was able to make a connection to you prior to even meeting you. So we know the power of networking. And we have people that work with the Texas Alliance of Black School Educators, with the National Alliance of Black School Educators. Our reach is not just here in Garland. We have contacts throughout the world. And we want to use those contacts to make GISD as strong as it can possibly be. So that's our introduction into who we are, what we do. And so we want this Q&A session to be kind of geared toward how is it that we can work with you? What is it that you expect of us? And what can we expect of you in turn? How can we partner together? What do we need to do so that when you're thinking, I need a resource, who am I going to call? GAABSE's there.
Nice, I love it. Good job.
So as we're going through the questions, that's the goal of this Q&A. How can we partner with GISD? So I just want to make sure that we stay focused on that goal. And so you have the floor, sir.
Hey, thank
you
you.
for
Great
listening.
job. Great job. So, when you look at your 4 pillars and everything they're doing, focuses on what students. Diamond and Pearls, is that from the Prince song?
It's a little mix. It's a little mix.
Hey, I'm telling you.
It's a little mix. It's a little mix. Our young girls are pearls.
Everybody's all like, Prince? I'm like,
Yes.
Perfect rain, baby.
Got a good mix.
That's right. So, well, I want you to do, Ms. Griffin's having second thoughts. So what we're going to do is I want you to write down 3 questions that you have. Just write them down. And then I'll call on you in random order. And then if somebody asks the same question you already have, feel free to scratch it out. Right? So that way, but 3 critical questions. Usually the first 3 that come out are the ones on your mind.
Yes.
Three questions.
Can they hear us too?
Mhm.
Oh, nice.
And it stays on our channel. So see,
Oh,
typically we have people that'll log in because like lots of our coaches can't make it to the meeting.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'll give you about 30 more seconds, then we'll start taking questions from the floor.
And as you guys are preparing, when you are called on to read your question, if you'll say your name, so for the sake of minutes, as JC is reporting, that would be great.
Anybody want to start with their first question? Right here up front, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Carol Montgomery. I teach at alternative school. I'm great. In your comments, you recognize the concerns about the status of African American males in our school district. And based on what you've heard so far about GAABSE, what do you see that we may be able to do to address those concerns?
Oh, you know what, that's a great question. So much like how you came up with the diamond and pearls, maybe we can do something for the young men, do the mentoring. A lot of you probably already know some families that are in programs and mentoring programs, but district-wide and systems-wide. Not this, well, let's try to do something on our own in the campus. It has to be systemic, impactful, and meaningful. And so if, when we start rolling this out, you see something that you want to volunteer in, I would love a volunteer. But by the same token, I love what you are doing with the young ladies. I mean, building strong women, I'm all about. Remember, I have 4 girls. So I'm all about that. But we also need to develop men to do the right things as well. So maybe we can create something for the boys as well. These are ideas that are coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do want to let you know the rationale behind driving for a female mentoring program. During our meetings, we have professional development, and Dr. Chris Kemp Graham came in and she presented her research from her dissertation, and it showed the disproportionality of African-American girls in discipline surpassing males nationally.
Wow.
So we decided to take that information and to apply it to have a female program here in
Awesome.
GISD.
Hey, I'm all for it. Thank you.
And Region 10.
Region 10.
Extremely strong.
Awesome. Next question. Oh, not all at once. Come on. Here we go.
Stacia Pascal here. What do we as an organization need to do so that we can be intertwined in our professional development department? Part of the planning as we're looking for what PD will happen throughout the year, those calendar days that we have in the district to be a part of that rotation.
You know what? That's a real good, strong, and profound question, because I see it twofold. The first fold, I see it as you wanting to give to us and help educate our workforce on how to handle diversity in the classroom, right? Which is huge. But the problem is it can't be just one time.
Right.
It's got to be consistent. It has to be a reminder. There's no one-time fix-alls.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that is we need to get you intertwined with that. But the second part to it is I got to allow you all to go for your professional development as part of the without worrying about having to take a day off and getting all that paperwork done and everything else. So what I'm gonna propose to you is whoever's the head of your chapter, send me an email on the dates that it's gonna be and the attendees. And they'll say, you know, it's kind of a formal letter, Dr. Lopez, this is the list of attendees on these dates. Do we have permission to attend these events, you know? And I'll just probably just email approve. And that's all you need.
And we like that.
That's all you need. Keep it simple. You have it there on an email. And you see, but I don't do that just with your organization. There's other organizations I do this with. And the thing is, I want people to grow. I want people to know. And if you guys come back and share your resources and everything else, it makes our district that much better. So, you know, let's simplify that process. So when you say professional development, I see it twofold. I got to keep you developed. And there might be something else that you guys want and say, hey, Dr. Lopez, you know, there's this thing on equity for all children that can we send a team to, not just us, but a good team, and then we can come back and maybe we could use it as a professional development model. Absolutely. Maybe there's a book study. You know, so I remember when I was growing up, we read a lot of Ruby Payne. You know? And then it kind of just went on the wayside, right? So what else is out there? So you guys can be a resource for me too on some studies that we can do to help understand you, you know, and understand you. Because let's face it, as we get older, I was at that Wii thing and there was half of the performance. I'm like Googling them, like, who's that? You know? And I have kids and I was out of touch. So we got to remain in touch. So I think you get your development and you guys recommend some resources for us. I think that could be a very powerful connection. How you doing?
All right.
Good to see you.
I know, I didn't see you last week.
Right.
The spring break.
Hi, you got that?
Yes.
Yes. I have a question in regards with the professional development. How can we as parents get that professional development to better ourselves as well?
You know, when they talk about professional development for them to go, I don't just think of the professional development need for teachers. It's for all parts of our organization. Even, I'll be honest with you, even in our maintenance, in our cafeteria workers, people have to be developed. You know, cultural awareness doesn't just happen in the classroom. It's organizational, okay? And that's how you redefine cultures, by getting out of that mindset. You can't just stick to the old paradigm, like, well, only the teachers get trained, or only the principals get trained. And it's gonna be different. Okay, well, can we include our bus drivers? Can we include our people that are in HVAC, you know, or different leadership positions? People are people. And sometimes we all need to be developed. And so if there's paraprofessionals that want to get involved in this training, I'm open to it. You know, I know that the funds, that's the other thing, comes from the campus, right? And to help out and everything else. And so systemically, because, you know, I'm kind of scared now thinking about it. You guys might get like 2,000 requests, you know, and say, well, we can only send this many, right? But we can filter it out and set a priority list on where we go.
And I'd also like to point out, speaking along professional development, the gap in achievement, cultural relevancy, this team has done it and presented to other campuses. How many campuses took advantage?
We had two.
Wow.
Only two.
Wow. Yeah. See, but that's a cultural thing. You know, I'll be honest, that's a cultural thing. Our culture doesn't think they need it. That's right. Right? So we got to work on that. Yes.
My name is Angela
Okay,
Daniels.
we'll get you next. I apologize.
All right. And we talked about the gap with African American students, and I was wondering, what do you see anything coming down the pipeline to expand alternative education and not just the alternative school for discipline, but other ways that students can grow if they don't fit the traditional model? Because we lose a lot of students who just can't do all day, every day,
Right. So, there's out of the box thinking, right? So one of them could be that when we talk about the different models that you have, we have like memorial pathway. Okay, so people are like, man, but what I envision, and I haven't even discussed this, so I shouldn't even say it on camera or anything else, but they should also offer certification courses at Memorial Pathway, not just a place to get a diploma or a GED. Okay, it should be where kids could say, my goodness, this is not the traditional mold, but they leave with some sort of certification for a life skill. The other part too is sometimes there's charters that do a better job of this than we do. And there's partnerships that you can do with charters to really solidify a two-way street. And I've already started some of that. I'm hoping it'll eventually unfold. But, so instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, so what happens with these kids? These kids don't show up to school, they're dropouts. You're not getting money for them for attendance, right? And then we don't have really a system to fit their needs. But if you create like a partnership with the charter system, it's about the child, right? It's about the child. And it doesn't mean that we're going to really lose anything. It's about getting them through the life. There's also other alternative programs in getting them into field studies, okay? And so where kids can start learning a real craft, like I was saying, and a certification. And as soon as they complete, boom, they got a job, okay? Those are the type of things we're looking for, because if we set them up for life, they're going to be fine. So if you have other ideas, we're open to them as well.
As long as we're open.
Yeah, no, we're open. Yes, sir. Uh-oh.
Forgot.
We got the legend now. Got my eyes crossed my T's.
John Washington.
Oh, I know.
Anyway, I can't get the unit in my head, but at one time we did a district-wide diversity training. Community liaison was very good at the time. She still is, I'm sorry, but it was a member of her committee that said, he was from TI, he said, won't you just do diversity training for your whole district? And first thing, my math dropped. We did that. Now, I want to know your feelings about doing that again. To refresh that. Now, it wasn't easy, but everybody from cafeteria workers, bus driver, anybody that touched kids got the training.
And that's a beautiful idea.
Not optional.
And what you need to do on something like that, if we move forward on something like that, anytime a new person comes in, you got to have that training.
Right.
It's got to be kind of like the protocols, the sustain, because you do it once and then 5 years passes and then you have different people. It's not being reinforced. It kind of loses its sensitivity. I think diversity training shouldn't only be like, it sounds bad, but it should be like, hey, you're going to go get diversity training. Okay? Like, it should be all about relationships. It should be about those relationships. It should be, this is who we are. This isn't about diversity. This is how we serve people. And that's my biggest fear, because sometimes it's like, okay, we're going to train you all in A, B, C, D, and E, and then you got to learn how to be diverse, right? And then you're going to come back. But remember, you have to be diverse. It needs to be part of our culture that, hey, we are diverse. And when we get to that point, people won't even know we're getting diversity training. That's just who we are, right? But we got to get to that, and you're right, it has to be 7,500 people. And I'd love to hear more about what you all did. How long ago was it?
I want to say 05, Mary?
Yeah, 05 to 6.
We did 3 attempts, right?
We did it in 3 different sections. Yeah, we did over a course of 2 years.
Well, we had 3 different facilitators. Are you talking about the lady that came out of A&M?
No, we're talking about,
Because that was the first.
Jeannie was her first
Dr.
name.
Bill.
Jeannie Bell.
Janae Bill.
Janae.
Janae Bell, that's it.
2009.
So we're talking about almost a decade later,
Mhm.
right? So we really need to look into that.
If I could just jump in a minute
Please.
with that, is that if there's no accountability that's gonna come with this inclusion, diversity, I've seen it a couple of times here. It has to have some meaning.
Right.
Because most of us are not people in this room. People are not gonna do the self-examination.
Amen.
Because the lady that came from, can't think of her name, from the first one that came out of A&M. She took all of our data and came back and spit it out. She brought it back to us and gave it to us. So you have a bigger issue than just offering the training.
Yeah.
When are we gonna touch that button
Yeah.
that it touches me?
Yeah. That's
Children, I know, thank you, Mr. Griffin, but before I retired, there was a group that started Courageous Conversation, and I thought that was really great.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I don't know, of course, I retired a year and a half now, where that went, because Duke Burnett was on it, and a lot of people are on that, having those courageous conversations. And what it was centered around, just having, I mean, tell me about your culture. Why do you do certain things?
Mhm.
I mean, why do you put curl in your hair? You know, it just some things that people never thought to talk about. You know, as Phyllis Harris is looking, sometimes they just want to touch it. You know, I've always wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just because they wanted to, but now you have those courageous conversations. This is the reason why. And I thought that was a great concept of having those courageous conversations, just being true.
Right.
And I'm gonna do this one aside, and this was we had a death in one of our HR people, and we went to church, and this becomes a cultural thing. And I was there, and I got up and spoke on behalf of the school district, and she asked me, "Why did you know to do that?" I said, "The highest ranking person always do it." It's in our, and she never didn't know that because it's in our church too. You know, if it's my family, the oldest family member would get up and speak of the family. And so I was the highest ranking officer from GISD. So I gave that, and she said, "How did you know to do that?" It's just second nature for me in my church to do that.
Right. So, no, those are things that I haven't heard of that yet, but I gotta look into that. I did not know that. This gentleman's been patient.
Thank you. My name is Roger King, assistant principal at Garland Elementary. And I know that the data will show that nationwide, statewide, and even here locally, that majority of
And we see a huge disparity. And the disparity is twofold. One is by, I would say, class, the type of person you are from a socioeconomic level. Okay, so those that have usually thrive, those that have not, don't. But then usually the ones that don't are people of color. And then that's where the disparity is coming from. So when you start looking at our NIMSY recognitions, there's been a big jump in that. okay? And there's been a big push to get more kids at the AP Scholar level. And if you look historically at Garland, they've done a great job of doing that. The issue is this: whenever you're dealing with statistics, you can look at them through different vantage points, right? So if I'm looking at the amount of kids that are going up and everything else, that looks good. But then when I look at the kids that are from that point on down, that's not so good. So then we started doing a district-wide AVID, correct? And the AVID, if you look at the AVID program, you start seeing a lot of more minority faces and everything else. But they're still not thriving to the levels that we want them to, okay? And so to unlock that code is going to be a deep one to get them into those levels, because we can create an all-access program, right? An all-access program, for those of you that don't know, that means we can have a universal program that allows kids to go into AP, and if they don't qualify, you give them contracts and they stay, and, you know, but that doesn't mean they're gonna score, right? And then you get pushback saying, well, now I have to lower my expectations because you're letting everyone in. And so we gotta start expanding those programs to reflect the diversity rate that we have, okay? And you will see that Asians are very populated in those classes. You'll see Anglos, you'll see a low rate of Hispanics and African Americans. Even though they're there, they are there. I don't want you to think they're not there, but not to the percentage levels that we have as a district. And so then what you're gonna have to move towards eventually is saying that you want your higher education models to reflect the diversity models that are at your school, okay? And then those are when the tough conversations come with teachers. And so what I like to do is get the best teachers in those higher level classes, because usually your best teachers can teach anybody. And so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but you'll see the direction I'm going by the time we have a convocation, okay? And you'll get a taste. And we got to realize that this isn't a one-year fix. And this is the great part about coming in January for me is I really get to see the real Garland. Can't hide it. You're in full motion. It's going. The bad part is it gives me very little time to really create a strong foundation plan to start the next year. So we're going to start with some planning for this coming summer, absolutely. But by the end of next year, phase 2 is going to hit. Okay, and then so this is a multi-year step. And so what's going to happen is at first we're going to feel like we're moving slow, and we're going to gain tread, and then we're going to see how fast we're moving. And we're going to look back and we're going to say, oh my gosh, we've done a lot. But you hit a very complex issue. And if we solve it, I'm going to tell you, you and I are going to go on the road to make millions. Right. All right? He's off that. Because it is. And the thing is, what did I tell you? It's a cultural belief. Okay? And that's the founding core of what we have to get to. And some of it, I'm going to tell you, it's not, when I say it's a cultural thing, I don't want to misconstrue my words, that it's a cultural thing, that a certain culture does not want another culture to thrive. It's not that. Even in our own cultures, we have people that will say, well, there's haves and have-nots. And they forget where they came from. Or they want to forget. And sometimes, they're like, well, I'm sorry, they don't qualify. It's kind of like this elitist, my kid's in AP. Not everybody can be it. My kid's in IB. My kid's in Imagine. My kid's in, and so it's that cultural mindset. And the thing I have to remind things is people, if you do research on the brain, it'll show the brain is just like all of your muscles. You don't have a static learning process. It's already been proven. You don't have a static intelligence rate. You don't. Most people think you do. So if you have a certain IQ, they think, well, that's how smart you are. Well, that's how smart you are on that day. You can expand that. It's a muscle. And because it's a muscle, all our muscles mature at different rates. We have physical maturity, right? Physical maturity. I don't think I became physically mature until I was like in college in my 20s. I couldn't even grow hair on my face. And I was so upset, because I always looked like a little kid, right? We have mental maturity. The brain works differently. The kids don't all learn at the same rate. How many of us did it happen that like years later we're in a class and we go, oh my God, that's what they meant. It's that maturity level just kicked in. We have social emotional maturity, right? Thank you for coming. That's what we do in class, right? So, we have social and emotional maturity, right? So we all mature differently and different on how we deal with our relationships. And people forget that. There's so many different levels. And so what everybody wants is that honor student that's yes and eager and will work hard. And they might not even have the aptitude that another kid might have. Okay? And we're not even talking about the backgrounds that they come from. So we have to remind people that as educators, you need to be educated in your field to understand that these kids are all learning at different rates. That's why we have something called late bloomers, right? Some of us were late bloomers. There's no shame in that. Some of our kids are late bloomers. So we got to get out of that mindset. And so when I tell people this, and I want you to think about this, as adults, your job is not just to educate children, it's to educate adults. That's the biggest lesson I learned going into administration. I thought I was going to come in and everybody's all like just going to rally around me because I got all these ideas. And you know, remember, I thought differently. I'm a different thinker. Some of you know that. And so then all of a sudden I had to learn, like, oh my God, I'm teaching adults at the same time. At first, it used to frustrate me. I'm like, I'm teaching adults. Don't they get it? And I thought, wait a minute. That's what a leader does. A leader teaches adults. So I had to educate them and teach them and let them know my expectations and then get the right people on my team. And then after that, everything falls into place. But once I learned that my job is to teach adults so they can properly teach kids, then my whole leadership style changed. And it was very patient because they'll disagree with me, and then they'll outnumber you. And then in your mind, you're like, you can't fall into that trap. In your mind, you say, I gotta find somebody that will make it happen. Because unfortunately, we say we're people of faith, but seeing is believing. Seeing is believing. I know it's a long answer to your question, but that was a deep question. So, big deal. Other questions? That's tough one. That's all gonna be like, what's your favorite color? And do you like the Cowboys? I met Emmett Smith today.
Yes.
I met Emmett Smith. Yeah. Yeah. You know, he was at D-Day and we day.
World War II.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm so excited, and he has a beautiful, lovely wife, and she does all this philanthropy with him, and so I had an autographed football. I'll share this with you. Autographed football. I brought my Sharpie. I felt like I was a 10-year-old. You know. And I saw him, and I guess he knew who I was because I introduced myself to his wife, right? And I told him, you know, Garland, I want to partner with your organization, the Team 22 organization. I think that'd be real powerful, right? And then he was walking, and I was like, could you give me an autograph, please? And he kind of looked at me, and he's like, you're breaking the rules. He's like, abuse of power. You know, this is abuse of power, but he signed it. Yeah. Say whatever, you signed it.
Right. Where did the football come from?
From my truck.
I just thought I'd expose it.
Oh, yeah, I came ready. I saw the thing. I go, I gotta catch him. You know, and so when I heard he was downstairs, because he already came out, like, did he leave? And they're like, no, I think he's downstairs. I ran to my truck in these shoes. Okay, I'm lucky I didn't slip and hurt myself. I ran. I got my football. I brought my Sharpie. You know, I was that 10-year-old kid again. You know,
He was in your building.
Yeah, in my building, right? Yes, it was. That's what I should have said. It's my building. That's what I should have said. Call me Curtis Coldwell. Right? Shoot. But you know, he signed it, and I was just so excited. You know, never in my life did I think I would run into him, and so I took full advantage. But yeah, I'm a Cowboy fan, so down and true. All right, what other questions we got right here? Uh-oh, put me on the spot.
I'm Bonnie Barrett from Darty. Do you have
What is gonna be our main focus instructionally? To get a lot of.
For me,
Is that coming
for me, a lot of direction for me?
No.
Lack of direction for me,
No.
or is it just been in general that lack of
In
direction?
general, it's been a lot of.
All right, so part of my listening and learning tour, is gathering information from you all. And then I'm gonna be with the whole district on Thursday, the district leaders. And I've gone to the NAACP, the Hispanic, Garland, GAABSE, yeah. I've been to, meeting with just so many different people. And then what I do, of course, is look at the data. And so from there, I want to create a singular focus. Now, most people are like, singular focus, a singular focus, yeah. You know, and I tailor what I see the needs are to what I'm internally felt I would go into and what I'm being exposed to, okay? So what is happening, and this has been the number one thing people have said in my tour, we do everything, but we're a master of none. So we don't really have an identity, right? Something comes out, we're chasing that, and something comes out, we're chasing that, and something comes out, we're chasing that. And so when I was in Isleta, we were really good at dual language. My goodness. We had international schools, we were really good at dual language. So we anchored ourselves in dual language practices, and we rolled that out. And when I became superintendent of mission, one of the board members expected me to start rolling out all these dual language things because that was my history. And I came back and I said, we're really good in STEAM. And they're like, we don't even have it. I go, I know, but you're good at it. You have like all these little layers of STEAM processes, and we have a bad need of literacy. So let's tackle both, right? So we had a single focus of literacy. And you're like, but you just said STEAM. You see, what we determined in our little circle of trust is that coding is a 21st century reading skill. And then so we embedded that in our curriculum, and so we had kids that were coders and everything else, and other school districts started emulating what we were doing. Because when I first got there, everybody's like, this school district's doing that, this school district, they were more worried about what was out there. Because they felt like, because they didn't have an identity. And I go, let's be good at what we do. Well, we became literacy, right? I come here and we do have gaps in literacy. We started Balanced Literacy, which is a phenomenal program. Where it's a phenomenal way of learning, is what it really is. But when I grasp what we're going to do, we're going to have a singular focus. And it might look similar to some of the other districts around us or even where I've been at, but it's not because of them, it's because of us. And then we're going to build from there. And it doesn't mean we don't do other things. But what it means is that we have this collective focus because people want to know what's expected of them. They don't want to be pulled in 10 different directions. And then you do it one year and then something else comes and then you forget about that. That's why I asked those 3 questions. Where do we start, stop, and continue? And so the stopping stuff, can deal with programs. And the good part is you've already been through it and you're going to be through it again. So you can answer differently, right? You can add more stuff to the table, okay? And so the focus will come out and it should be coming towards the end of the year. So we know what we're going to do. But number one, I'm going to tell you, number one is we're going to close the achievement gaps for all students. That's non-negotiable. You cannot say you're a good district if you're not doing that. You can't say you're a good district if you're not doing that. All right.
So you talked about closing the achievement gap, and one of the places to start is with early childhood. So where do you stand on like universal pre-K for all?
Oh my goodness. So universal pre-Ks are like the coolest thing. For those of you that don't know what universal pre-Ks are, that means pre-K for all. Okay? That means regardless of your income, you go to pre-K. People love that. It's free daycare, right? The only bad part is that 2 things happen with universal pre-K. 1, it's very expensive program. And 2, you don't get a bang for your buck on half day.
That's right.
You don't get, so you would have to make it full day. So you just really doubled or tripled your costs because you're giving them free. Okay, so on the kids that are there that qualify for half day, that's all the state pays for. So if you make it full day, you're paying the half a day for them. And for the ones that don't qualify, you're paying a full day. So that's a 3/4 adjustment. Plus then you need the space. Plus you need, so, and then they have pre-K standards. So people don't understand, it's not easy to say, hey, let's do full grade pre-K, you know? Because then all of a sudden, you don't have the space. Welcome. How are y'all? All right. Oh, the big guns came. Driving in. Good to see you all. So in Mission, what happened was we had a 50% adult illiteracy rate. That's adults. 50% cannot read. So we wanted to tackle that. And so as a district, that's what we committed to. Full, universal, all-day pre-Ks for all, if you lived in the district or not. Because if you're gonna drive in from out of the district, you're gonna bring brothers and sisters. Mom and dad aren't gonna drop you off at 3 different schools. So what do you think our enrollment went? Up. And if you're doing a good job with the kids, mom and dad are coming back because then they make friends, they're part of the community, all of that stuff. So that's what we did in Mission, but it wasn't enough. So when we sat down, we were saying, how can we do things? We had summer reading initiatives where we bought the kids books, we expected them to read, they had to do their packets. We were doing all this, but it still wasn't enough. So we got together with the Myon's an online reading program, and we got together with our 3 cities, and our 3 cities contributed $20,000 each to make it a community-wide project for Mission Reads for All, okay? So then what we did was we went to daycares, we went to churches, we went to different places, and we gave them access so they can teach their kids that these are free books. Get them off the apps and get them on the Myon, okay? We, at HEB, one of my friends, he was all like, how's that at HEB about where you live? And there was a little flyer on Myon as I'm walking in, you know how you grab the coupons? They're like free access. I was like, that is awesome, you know? So the other thing, too bad the hospital closed like here, but I don't know what it is, me in hospitals and they closed. So anyway, when the babies were born, they were giving them access and they were saying, welcome to Mission CISD. We expect literacy. Here's a free app in English and Spanish for you. If you can't read, it can be read to use your kid. We were going all about that. And we did a 5-year commitment with each of the cities. Okay, so think about the impact that they have. You see, we can't go at this alone. Remember I said I'm one man? Right. And so a lot of us are saying, you guys do it, you guys do it. You are very influential with community leaders. All of you are, right? And so when we start these authentic partnerships, these are the type of things that we're capable of doing. And this was the crazy part. I'm going to share a funny story with you. So a friend of mine, his name is Richard Carranza. He was the superintendent in Houston. Right? He's now going to be the superintendent of New York Unified Schools.
New York
Department of Education. Yeah.
The city.
In the city, right? So he's going over there, right? So anyway, it was this past summer, we were in Austin, and him and his wife and me and my wife are after the conference and we're hanging out. And his wife's a big Myon fan, right? And she hits him and says, tell him about Myon, right? And he goes, hey, there's a school district that partnered with 3 cities, and he starts telling me all the stuff, right? And I'm looking at him, and he goes, look it up, it's Mission, Texas. His wife goes, he's from Mission. So I'm like, oh my God, it's you. You never put the 2 together, you know, but you know, it was one of those things that it was an aha moment. He called me because I'm meeting with the mayor of Houston. Maybe we can do something similar for all the kids of Houston. How powerful is that? And this was the most powerful thing. So we have the city of Alton, and Alton is a beautiful city. The people there will give the shirts off the back for you. And guess what? That's the only shirt they have. A lot of them are like colonial living, no water. They live under tarps. They sleep on the floor. Such humble people. And so that city, they're like, we don't have a public library, and they were partnering with us on the public library. But because they're contributing to it, you know, what they said was, we can make this a virtual library for us, and hopefully we can start getting money back for grants, so we can build our own library. I was like, how beautiful is that? That type of literacy and that type of commitment, that type of out-of-the-box thinking. So there's people willing to do it. Now, I'm not saying that's what we're gonna do, because that happened over there. I gotta have the people that wanna do it here. You know, and so, but you're right, literacy is a focal point, but we can't live on old literacy. We have to define what the literacy is the kids need to know and make it part of our DNA. And then build from there. So I hope that answered your question. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Oh,
I
no.
know I'm supposed to listen,
Oh, no, here we go.
but because I have worked with this group since day one of the charter. Tell us your philosophy as it relates to campus leadership and the makeup of the kids within that campus.
Awesome.
And if you have in your mind something different than what you have seen, you have almost toured all of the campuses, then what do you think is our direction?
Awesome. So, we've all experienced good leadership in our life, and we've all experienced people that still need to grow in that area, right? And I'll tell you that my philosophy is this: the best gift I can give a student is a high-powered teacher. That's the best gift I can give any student. The best gift I can give that teacher is an extraordinary leader. If I take care of those simple things like that, guess what? Everything works. So really, my most important hire, this is my principal. That is my most important hire. Their most important hire is going to be the teacher, okay? Because that's the person that's in front of the kids each and every day. If I hire a person that is highly competent, that can evaluate talent, that doesn't play favorites, that can really hold people accountable and lead with vision, that school will thrive. If I hire somebody that's just going to manage you and be nice to you and just hold the fort down, that school will plateau. If I have a person that gets intoxicated with power and buys into their title and thinks that they walk on water, that school will decline. And you never know what you're going to get, because the principalship is boiling water. So you might get somebody that you think is very hard, like a carrot, to go in the boiling water. What happens? It turns soft. You may get a fragile egg. What happens? They turn hard. I want people that are like tea and coffee, that get in that boiling water and make it their own. Okay? So if I can hire right, that's what happens. Now, at the secondary level, we got a lot of good programs going on, but we don't have enough. Okay? There's a lot of area for growth. And it's funny how when we think of programs, we think of secondary schools, right? Then middle schools, right? I'll be honest with you. If you have great middle schools, you're going to have great high schools. Okay? I need to work on my middle schools. I need to work on my middle schools, because we're limited in some things, and I got to set my principals' minds free. And then I got my elementary schools. So some of my elementary schools are like, well, we're just a regular elementary. We're not like an academy, right? Well, differentiate yourself. There's a lot of different programs out there that can make you different. We don't need a traditional elementary school anymore. That's not for the 21st century person anymore. Okay? It's not. So I need to liberate my principals to take risks, to do what's right for kids, and fail. They're like, what? Fail. Why do I want them to fail? Not fail the kids, fail in the quest of doing what's right for kids, because it's not always going to be perfect. And they got to know that they're going to have a superintendent pick them up, say, what did we learn from that? How do we not make this mistake again? And now how are we going to move forward? That's what we need for kids. We don't need people to say, well, I can't do that because Dr. Lopez will say no. Right? I don't need that. And so campus leadership is a biggest hire there is, because when things are going right, everybody's like, they have all the good kids. They have all the great teachers, right? When things are going right, the principal's like, I'm here too. Oh yeah, you're lucky we're here, right? But when things are going wrong, they're all like, right? We all know that. Especially if people have been getting, the ones not laughing are the campus principals here. They're like, dang funny, dude. Funny. Because it's true. You see, and good leadership is tough. This is a leader, a principal today is unlike any leader in yesteryear. Before it was clean buildings, keep the kids out of trouble. You know, that was it. Now with accountability, and now with having innovation, and now having competition, and now, you know, because in the old days too, let's face it, in the old days, it was kind of like when we grew up. Nobody asked me how I cared about my parents. They didn't ask me, is your mom and dad mean to you? They saw you're at school, you look fed, you look clothed, you must be okay. Right? My mom and dad are mean to you, well, what are you doing? Right? Those days of administration, remember that. Teacher came in, my principal's mean to you, well, what are you doing? Those are very different. Now people go to the teachers, and we should, and say, how do you feel? Is this the environment for you? We go to our kids, how do you feel? Is this the teacher for you? And it's not that we want to lose that customer service or that value for our employees. It's just there has to be a balance that they have to understand that we have a huge undertaking and we cannot be shy about it. And we need everybody involved, and we need people that are willing to make sacrifices. And if your principal is going to be bold and do things for kids, you got to rally behind that person. And that's when we see the strong leaders are learning all that. To go and say, hey, we're going to venture out, and this is what we're going to do because it's best for kids, and we're going to have the results to prove it. Okay.
I'm glad Ms. Griffin said that, because one of the things that GAABSE can offer, and I wanted to put in with my question about us being able to engage with you in quarterly meetings so that we can strategize and plan, so that we as an organization can bring in concerns and resources. We have an African American initiative and mentoring for African Americans that are striving to go into administration. Part of our hesitation is because GISD has the aspiring administrators, what would you call that? Program. Not to be in competition with that, but to have an understanding of the needs might look a little different for someone who is a person of color striving to move into administration, and for administrators who are people of color, what that would look like and some of the things that they are dealing with. So that is an idea that we want to push as an organization. And so that's part of the things we would like to partner with GISD to do. So how can we be a part of quarterly meetings and planning and engagement?
I think one of the things is that we look at we sit down and we said, these are going to be our goals for the next year. Once I lay out everything, because my board still needs to have goals, and I cannot have competitive goals, guys. I cannot have my board say, we're going to do this, and you're like, yeah, but we really need this. Remember, we have to be singularly focused and build on that. And then once we get the board goals coming out, then we can say, all right, what are some commonalities that we can work on? And then from there, that's strategically what we're going to anchor ourselves in. Because most of the time, what people don't understand is whenever you kind of have a more open concept, you really don't achieve much. You get a lot done, but you get pulled different ways, and people start coming, they don't know what it is, so they just start throwing things out there, and we don't get to anchor ourselves, right? So I'm not discounting the African American quest to move up, but we might have a different goal, and I need to focus on that. And so what I need from you all to say is, how can we focus on that? And then maybe in your leadership cohort, they partner with us to help focus on that. So then that gets them exposed to, because everything's about personal connections, right? to their level of competency. What got me, my door open, I was part of a leadership cohort called Mariposa, which means butterfly. And it was for bilingual people to start getting, they didn't have enough bilingual leaders. So in that program, they paid for my master's, and they paid for me to leave once a week to go with a strong principal and shadow them for a whole semester. And they did that for 2 years. So as a teacher, I was gone once a week. As a teacher, then I had my monthly training sessions with them, plus my master's. I was well trained, and I went to the most controversial principals that were making change for kids. And that's where I made my connections. And they were the ones saying, you got to get that guy Rick Lopez on your team. It wasn't me. I worked with 4 different principals. So they were the ones selling it. And so maybe we can start something like that rather than, the other conversations, because in my leadership academy, I'm going to have to be doing the same thing, getting them out there on our district goals to help out. And the more people I have, the better it is for who? Kids. For kids, right? So I hope that helped. But then from there, we can do quarterly to see where we're at. Yeah. Go ahead.
Clarity is everything. Understanding is everything. It's a new day in Garland. It's a bright day in Garland. Some of the things we did to bring focus to GAABSE, hear me well, I'm not complaining. It took us to where we were and what we need to do. Our fight right now is different. Listen to me. Our fight is different within this district. As much as you, GAABSE, want to accomplish these things on your own, I'm going to caution you. Because this leader is different. My board is different. We are not going to look at these competing same achievement goals. I already get criticized for going to Black events, Hispanic, Mexican events, Asian, whatever, because they always see that we haven't become one. So if you listen to what Dr. Lopez is saying, he is saying at some levels, he's listening so he can bring in all of these separate pieces under one umbrella. Because if he has to work with what you want over here and what the Hispanics want over here and what the Asian need over here, what he needs is a leadership development approach and an academy. And that's for all. And I believe that's where he wants us to go. So just give him a little bit of time to take in what all of you all are saying. And let's be transparent. It's about the upward mobility of African Americans in this district.
Yeah.
Now, you know me.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just cut it to the chase. And there's another way for us to show harmony, because if we aren't together as we move forward. So don't let us kill him. Because in 70 days, he has been on a whirlwind. I say, welcome aboard to the big boys. This is how we do it. And we got to let him get his hands around, because what he has to say is something of unity to the board for all staff and that equity exists. And so therefore, everyone is gonna give and get a chance. We don't collaborate before we come out, but you should see I spent enough time with him and interviewed him, so I kind of know what he's thinking. So some of those things, and I told him, you're gonna kill yourself with all these meetings. And I don't wanna visit you in the hospital. So let's give him an opportunity to bring all staff together, and he will bring us the equity that we need, but we gotta give him time.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'll share a story that we were out and this one board member tells Linda, he says, don't overwork him or something to that effect. And she goes, he does that to himself. We don't need to add any more to the fire. But understand it's not anything more than authentic wanting to know y'all, right? Because I wouldn't want anybody to start making all these decisions if they didn't get to know me. I mean, I'll be honest, you know? I would hate for a superintendent to come in and start saying, we're gonna do this, this, and this, and not really understand why we're doing it. And so hopefully, like I said, we move slow to move fast. One more question and then?
Yes.
Okay, one more.
And then we're done.
Okay,
So.
then we're
should it
finished.
be
Okay. Any other questions that anybody has?
I do have a closing. Two things. Word GAABSE, Garland Area Alliance for Black School Educators. Don't let the B frighten you away.
Whoop, whoop.
Thank you, JC.
Hello. Holla.
Don't let the B frighten you away. You know, look at JC. She's just as comfortable. Because she told my wife at the gala that she got 3% African American. She just got to find it. But
It's my DNA. I had it tested. I'm claiming it.
I know it. And Letty, she was my first secretary before I had a secretary. But that's all I'm gonna say about the B and GAABSE. And the other one, but the entire organization. We have 3 founders in the room. One is Carol Montgomery. Raise your hand, Carol. The other one is Nick Griffin. And yours too.
Well, what I'm gonna close with is thank you for the embrace. I know what you're trying to. I'm part of y'all, and I feel like it. Thank you so much. Founding members, I hope your legacy lives on. We talked about it's an unfinished, it's an unpainted painting, you know, and I'm gonna tell you the thing that brings me comfort in this room is I see you. I see the younger generation here. A lot of times in these organizations, I do not see you. And I'm gonna tell you, just the other day, it broke my heart. I've never been part of it, but the Garland Lions chapter has been dissolved. Oh my God. Garland Lions chapter has been dissolved. If there's no youth, there's no future. So it's good that you're grooming people and youth. You can't carry it on forever. You got to be able to recruit and bring people in and realize that this is a we thing. And maybe part of the cultural diversity is we ensure that people that want to come, they feel open. We don't let them be scared of us, right? You know, and I'll say this is that you guys have done a great job. You're in existence. You're doing good things. You got a synergy. I knew about you before, like I even came, right? It's like, holy mackerel. And realize I'm human. I'm gonna make mistakes. Okay? Now, hopefully not big ones, or hopefully none that anybody will notice. But I'm gonna fall forward when I fail, because I'm gonna be trying things for the betterment of kids. And I hope that some of you will say, I know that man. He was trying to, yeah, it blew up, but he's trying to do something. He's trying.
Right.
Let's get him up and let's make sure it doesn't happen again, but at least he's trying. Because that's the type of person I am. And that's what Garland got. And I plan to be here in the long term. I fell in love with y'all since the get-go. I rave about y'all. I will tell you that I did have family friends here in from El Paso, and I, this is bad, but I told them, welcome to God's country. And they gave me like, oh, God's country now. We have, you know, I thought you were from El Paso. I go, really? I'm from Kansas City. Long story. I'm all in, okay? And so let's all grow together. I appreciate you inviting me. I hope, one thing you're gonna see, I answer my questions with transparency. So like when she was telling me about leadership, I can very easily say, we're gonna be quarterly, we're gonna get these leaders. I didn't say that. I answer with transparency. I'm telling you, look, hey, understand where I'm coming from, and then let's grow together. And then thank you for Miss Griffin. Miss Griffin, by the way, not only interviewed me twice, this was the toughest process I've ever been through, okay? I mean, it was like a meat grinder, right? So, you know, you meet with the board once, and then you come back for a finalist, and they want to meet your wife. So, you know, we had dinner together. They interviewed for me again, okay? My board president secretly gave me homework. Then they don't say you're finalist. They say, we're looking at you as finalist. So they want to visit your old campus, your old stomping ground, your old school district. Well, the board didn't know I was applying for Garland. So now I call my board president and say, well, I got 3 people are coming wanting to visit you. When are you free? And they're all, for what? You know? And I was like, well, for this. And, you know, it was a very hard conversation. It was a very hard conversation. And then they had a list of people that they wanted to meet, from principals to community members. And you see, I'm transparent. I can't say, well, they want to meet because they're just looking at me as a potential candidate. I'm all like, well, this is how it started. And so I had to call all these people, right? And nothing's guaranteed. So they come in and meet. They meet all the people. They spend a day. We had a good time. We had a dinner together. And then they go back. And then you're just like, I hope I get the job, right? Yeah, it was tough. And I'll be honest, I love the mission community. There was nothing wrong with the mission community. Nothing. I love, they treated my whole family, me, like I've never been treated before, right? I had no reason to leave outside that this was an opportunity that I could not pass up. That Garland has always captivated me because of the people I've met in different areas since being a teacher. They were always so happy, and they were always so proud, and they were always like, we're Garland? You know, I was just captivated, right? And so when it opened up and I saw the needs and I saw that this is a good place to raise a family, I said, let's go for it, you know? And so she knows a lot about my district, and she's also a person who did her research. I know she called former board members twice, all right? I know she talked to people and say, oh, so you know Rick Lopez, tell me about it. That's what good people do, right? So understand that I appreciate her clarifying what I want, and understand that I'm here for the kids. I'm here for the employees. I'm here for y'all. So I won't keep you too long, but thank you very much for the invite.
Thank you.
Would like to give you a small token of appreciation. Tell you thank you. And Ms. Griffin, we would like to pass on a gift to you.
I can take it out to the seats. You'll know that I am a big time tweeter, so I was hoping we could all get together. Somehow, where can we go and just get a good picture of us?
Right here. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How can we take a picture? I don't know how to do that. Get a selfie. Don't worry. Oh, cool.
So that-
Let me take it, and then we'll do something in Photoshop.
I'll blank out the projector and then you just.
Are you sure?
So, yeah. So, they're a little sensitive about their.
Okay, y'all, here's how it's gonna go. So, we're gonna take it, I'm gonna take it, and then we're gonna Photoshop me in on the end.
JC, Emmanuel's taking
Oh, my Lord, Emmanuel's here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was trying to make y'all feel better.
Well, I think we have more room here toward the front of the. Will that, okay, yeah.
Come on over here. Come on over here. No, anybody want to sit? The founders sit, yeah, let's have the three founders sit. I love that.
Get y'all a bunch in. You tight.
Get tight.
Good
All right. Come on, looking good, all right? Let's make them all jealous.
All right. 1, 2, and. You take another one?
Yeah.
1, 2, 5, 6. All right. 1, 2, and. One more. 1, 2, and. Okay, one more camera. That worked. You think, boy. 1, 2, and 3. And we take one more. 1, 2, and. All right. See y'all do it later. I'll be able to see
All right. All right.
All right, so for the sake of time, there is one pertinent thing on the agenda because our gala is coming up April 7th. So y'all are free to go ahead, because I know we gotta get some pictures in, but if we could just have your attention about the gala for 2.2 seconds.
All right, so guys, our gala is April the 7th. I have sent out some VIP invites, and I have tickets here, physical tickets for you guys to purchase for the gala. They're $50. You can also go online. I'm sure you've received an email. Additionally, we do need nominations for the Golden Apple Awards. So all of those principals that are in the room, hey, I need you to nominate some of your very good teachers that are doing great things with our students, okay? The deadline was extended to the 23rd, which is Friday, but we'll leave it up until Monday. So if you guys could just go to that Google Doc and fill that out. If you don't have their resume, that's okay. We can get it when we call them to interview them. Just submit the information, but we do need the nominations in no later than Monday, which is the 27th, right?
Yes.
You can nominate more than one teacher, yes. There are going to be 3 finalists at each level, high school, middle school, and elementary, okay? Again, tickets are on sale right now. So you guys can purchase your tickets tonight. Or if you want to purchase them online, you can do that online. You should have the link for that. Additionally, we're going to talk about the silent auction.
Obviously, I got an email as in the past, we are asking for donations for the silent auction. Campuses have done a beautiful job as far as coming up with items for the silent auction, whether it be a gift basket that you put together, whether it be other items, but that information will be coming out. We do want your support, and we always shoot for representation from every campus to donate at least one item for the silent auction.
Okay. We also have the volunteer list for the gala. We need people to come out and help us set up, decorate, tear down. We need people to man the actual silent auction. That is going to be on the end of the table. There's 2 copies of it. So you can grab this, put your name and your phone number down, and we'll contact you at another date. But this will not be successful without you guys. So we really need your support in the way of purchasing a ticket, in the way of donating items, and actually attending and volunteering to set up and tear down. That's what I can give that quickly.
All right, thank you, thank you.
All right.
Are
we gonna
so
do the financial?
I will get to all of that. Okay, I will, definitely. I really appreciate you guys, because I know that this is more time than you probably have allotted. So again, I want to tell you that I appreciate it. For the gala, you know that our purpose is to recognize teachers, but also for us to give out scholarships. And you know that we've changed the criteria for our scholarship, because now we give the John W. Washington Leadership Scholarship, which has opened the door, and we're hoping, we are hoping that because we've taken the educational, them being an education major off, that we will have more applicants. Having more applicants means that we as an organization need to be prepared to pay out more money. We have amazing philanthropists among us. And so I'm gonna allow one of our founders to come and share some exciting news.
I pledged that I was gonna give a $500 scholarship, but $500 toward the scholarship, and someone who wants to remain anonymous matched me.
Oh.
So we have a $1,000 check to give in memory of Jason Jamal.
Oh.
I don't want that person to stay anonymous, but they're gonna remain anonymous. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That is amazing, and that is beautiful. And so with that being said, we really wanted to make sure that we put ourselves as an organization in a place to give more money. So you will notice that we are going to a small business for our gala. It was intentional. It was intentional because we are getting this location for free. Okay, this is important for us to have, where we're not putting out so much money that we scramble to give scholarships to students. So I really want you guys to push that and champion that as we're talking to people and pushing for people to come to the gala and understand that. We're supporting a small Black business, and we're putting ourselves in a position as an organization to give more scholarship money. So because we have, we're gonna have this venue. Last year, we gave a $750 scholarship. This year, we'll be able to give a $750 scholarship again. So everyone from the 7 high schools will apply, and we'll have one applicant that will get $750 instead of the $500. So I hope that you are as excited about that as I am, because that's why we do this. We do this for the kids. Okay. There are other items on the agenda that we're not gonna have time to go over, but to stay in, do things decent and in order. The copy of the minutes are here for you to take and to look over. The copy of the financial report is here for you to take and look over as well. I will send an email to the membership to ask for a vote of accepting the minutes and accepting the financial report, okay? I'm hoping that's okay. Is that okay? Founder, something down? Okay, great. Other order of business, changes to our constitution. We came to you guys about this a month ago, then we came back, revamped the verbiage, and so here is the new verbiage. You can pick up a copy of this. You will receive an electronic copy to vote. May, we will have elections coming up. So what those elections look like will be determined by if we accept these amendments to the Constitution or not. So here's a paper copy. You will receive an electronic copy as well, okay? Am I forgetting anything that's important that we need to cover now that can't be pushed into our April meeting? All minds clear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Pick those things up. Look, we got the paper as well. I'm gonna wait till you put the paper down. Will you close us out in prayer?
Oh.
You know that I love
Oh,
that.
you looking for that
Yeah.
Constitution? Got it. Okay, we bow with me. Almost gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for this opportunity. Thank you, Lord, for the visitation of our superintendent. Lord, we ask you to go with each and every member of this organization as we go out to make sure that our children, especially those children of African descent, have something to look forward to as they move through this educational system. Now, Lord, we ask you to go with each and every family represented to our respective homes. These prayers and we bless and we ask thee in thy name.
Amen. All right, and for the sake of minutes, we are closing out at 7:09 p.m. Thanks, guys.
7:09.